Hello, this is Ed Rigsbee with another edition of Raw and Unedited for Association Executives, where we give you tips, tactics, solutions, innovation, and all kinds of cool stuff to make you a better association executive, to help you run your association better and create more value for your members. Hey, with the COVID-19 time, I bet a number of you are wondering, oh my gosh, how are we going to deal with as we move from a live meeting to a virtual meeting, and how are we going to do? Are we going to have in the attendance? What's going to happen? And today I've got Don Tiura from the Sourcing Industry Group from Fernandina Beach in Florida. If you don't know where that is, that's really close to Amelia Island. And if you don't know where that is, that's really close to Jacksonville. Anyway, so Don, let's get into it. So tell me, your organization, you had to look at moving from a live to a virtual. Let's talk about the challenges you had and the results that you yielded. You have the floor.
Thank you. So yeah, we do a global summit every spring and every fall, and normally it's for about 400 very senior executives from global 1,000 companies. And so we represent the Office of Procurement. So the chief procurement officers you name it, they're members around the world. And we have $11 trillion of spend that our members manage. So these are very substantial people with huge budgets. I think the minimum is about $2 billion a year that they manage. So we get together for best practice sharing, networking, and our events are so collegial. People walk away with, pockets full of business cards from people that they've had great conversations with. We're very non-commercial in nature, so there's no active selling that goes on. And our ratio is typically 70% of our members are buy side, so they have the budgets, and less than 30% of our members are on the sell side. So very non-commercial. So they get together and they open the kimono and they share very, very intimate things that are going on in their organizations. So with the COVID crisis back in March, ironically, I was in California when it all started, the world started to close down. I got back to Amelia Island quickly and convened with my executive team and said, I don't think this is going to happen. And right then our kids have been told 2 weeks, no school, spring break is extended for 2 weeks. College kids were sent home. So it just felt like this was not going to end quickly. And we had our event scheduled in the end of April. So now we're in March, about the third week of March, and we made the decision that we had to cancel our event. But it's a moneymaker, and seats to actually attend the event are included in your membership price. So we have a commitment to our members as well for them to be able to use their seats. Where other people charge tickets, we have seats built into memberships. So we decided that we were going to do a massive pivot and go virtual. And I gave the executive team 1 week to find a platform. And I said we wanted to as closely mimic a live event as humanly possible, because we're known for this very warm, welcoming, collegial environment. So they did. They went out and looked. Since we were really compressed on time, we're less than 3.5 weeks from our event, we decided to move it back a few weeks later and give ourselves 6 weeks. So we moved it back to May. Went out, found a platform, and then we had to work like crazy to convince our sponsors to stay with the program. They kept saying, we'll just postpone it. We'll get together in the summer, we'll get together in the fall. And we said, we can't do that because we have a fall event coming up as well. So we kept about half of our sponsorship money, I would say, and moved several $100,000 that they wanted to push to the fall event. But as a result of it, we promised the ones that stuck with us that we guaranteed we'd have at least 500 buy-side people in attendance, which is a larger audience than they would have had than in person. So making my CMO, my chief marketing officer, commit to 500 was daunting. And I said, you have unlimited budget to go get 500. So what we decided is, since we'd already purchased a lot of items for the event, it was going to be in Orlando, Florida. So a lot of things had already been shipped to our storage facility here. We put together 300 boxes of what we called the SIG venture. We were going to go into a digital event, a whole new world. So we had a jungle theme around it. And we shipped out 300 boxes of everything that we had acquired already, with the exception of lanyards and name badges. So we sent out pashminas that had the SIG logo on it. We sent out bags that you would have gotten at check-in, water bottles, trail mix.
Did you mail these to the people?
Mailed to the first, so we made a commitment online through LinkedIn. So the first 300 people that register our event will get one of these SIG venture kits.
Okay.
So because we'd already purchased the item. So, an overnight kit, that has a sleep mask and a bag of trail mix. And then we asked the sponsors if there are other items that you want to be shipped in these boxes to send it to us. So they sent white papers, they sent camera covers for your computer, they sent a stuffed seal for seal software. So we had a lot of fun, but because of COVID, I didn't have a team that could come together and pack these boxes. So I had to rely on my fiance and the kids to package 300 of these and hand carry them all down to the post office. So I became a shipping clerk at the same time. But it generated a lot of excitement through LinkedIn and Twitter. And we asked them all to unbox their kit and show us their kits when they got them. The sponsors loved getting their items out in front of people. And so we got a lot of LinkedIn posts and a lot of Twitter posts of people unboxing their items. So that was the first thing we did, to try and drive people to register early. Now, what we found is that people for virtual events, typically our attendance doubles the last 6 weeks before we host our live event. In this case, it exploded the week before our event. So we were sitting at about 580 buy-side members. And about a week and a half before the event, we started getting upward ticks of over 100 people a day registering. So one of the things that we did to drive attendance was I took $20,000 of the sponsor money that we had, made a commitment that if people were interactive and committed to participating on the online platform, and they would get points, and the top points would be awarded. The top two were going to be getting a Peloton bike. So these were nice prizes. We had Sonos speaker systems with the sound bars. We had e-bikes. We had AirPods Pro, I think was the least expensive. The least expensive was a $250 Amazon gift card. And so we were going to give out one prize per sponsor.
Sorry, would you go back to points a little bit?
Yeah, so
is that a gamification thing, or I don't quite understand?
Gamification.
Okay.
So not only did I want them to register and show up, I wanted them to interact with our provider sponsors. Okay. So we went with a platform where you actually zoom in to a conference hall, you go past all the banners, you have little avatars walking around, you go up the elevator to go to the general session, you go around the corner to go to the breakout rooms, you go over here for the exhibit hall. And in the exhibit hall, we had 18 sponsors that still remained with us. And so they had to go in and interact with the sponsors. So watch their videos. The platform, you could actually connect with somebody and immediately push a button and have a face-to-face call through the platform. They had to attend breakout sessions and stay for the duration. They got points for tweeting. They got points for taking meetings with the sponsors. We basically gamified every single aspect of the entire event. And it drove our attendance up to, we ended up with 1,151 people registered from 39 countries. Wow. So, and we vetted every single registration to make sure that they were, properly buy-side and not, sneaking in just for the gamification. And so we looked at every single person's LinkedIn. They had to use a corporate email address to register. They couldn't use a Gmail. So everyone was vetted. And it was fantastic, the interactions. We had people like in the Netherlands who would get online every night at 5 o'clock because we started at noon Eastern. And they would get on at 5 o'clock at night their time and stay on until 10:30 at night. So we ran our event over 4 days. And over those 4 days, we had a keynote every day. And then we had fun things, at the end, we did a live wrap up. And then on the last day, one of the things we sent out in these 300 kits was a drink kit. And it was to make an old fashioned. So we I got permission from a friend who has a restaurant here. We went in and filmed her top bartender making the old fashioned with the kit. So we had a virtual happy hour where we played the video of how to make your drink. And then all of the SIG team had an old fashioned in their hand, and we did basically like a Zoom closing where we raised the glass with everybody. So we had a virtual happy hour with everybody. And I tell you, our sponsors were blown away with the event. They were live. People could ask questions. So the only difference is you couldn't turn to your left and right and start a conversation with somebody, but you could interact with them on the platform and immediately do a face-to-face call if you wanted to. But I tell you, so my team is small. We have 19 people. We were working probably 80 to 90-hour weeks in the 6 weeks build up to get to this event. I would never recommend doing it with 6 weeks of planning. And since our fall one is going to be virtual, we know how much work it is. But we drove a lot of excitement through social media, through the SIGventure kits that we sent out, and kept the jungle theme throughout. People asked about it, and we said it's an adventure. We don't know what this is going to be like, our first time going virtual. The sponsors were thrilled because they got exposure to so many more people from around the world than they would have gotten at a normal event. The ones who pushed their sponsorship money to the fall have all said they want to participate because it was done so well. And we set the bar high. You know, we had the largest gathering ever of procurement professionals in the world in an online platform, and kept them engaged over 4 days. And then everything was available on demand, so they could go in and watch every session that they missed.
Wow,
afterward.
That's amazing. Let's break this down a little bit. I mean, holy cow, I've got a whole page of notes here of things that I'm really interested in, that I'm guessing maybe others might be interested in. So let's start with just some nuts and bolts, if we might. You said you had 1 week. You gave your staff 1 week to find a platform, but then you relented and pushed it back and gave them 6 weeks. How did you go about finding the platform, and which platform did you choose to use?
So they did a quick study, and we did choose the platform in 1 working week, but we pushed the event back to give us 6 weeks to plan on how to get it up. We ended up going with a company called VFairs, capital V FAIRS. It worked. It worked well.
Am I sensing some consternation here?
Yeah.
Did they suck?
We might actually use them again, but we learned a lot.
Okay.
They lack a lot of security in their system.
Ooh, okay.
Which is, I don't appreciate. You could go into, our CTO could actually go into other people's events and cancel their sessions if he'd wanted to. So they didn't have security built into it that way. Okay. We're looking right now at Entrado, and Entrado is the grown-up version of VFairs, but also 5 times the price.
What kind of money are we talking about with VFairs? It's not proprietary, is it?
No, fully loaded, it was about $35,000 for 4 days. Okay. We had, if I recall, 4 keynote sessions, 4 general sessions wrapping up the end of the day, and 32 breakouts. And so they charge by the number of sessions that you have, the number of days that you have. And so at Entrado is probably going to be $150,000 to move over to another platform. But it's sort of the grown-up version, like I said, of VFairs.
So if you just, hold on, I'm forgetting to put you on the, so if you went from planning on making a commitment to 500 and you got 1151, which is pretty darn impressive, is there the money to spend to make Entrado work as far as the registrations?
We would definitely still make money. The difference is that we want to be able to use them over all of our one-day events as well. So we're trying to go look at a contract for an entire year, because all of our one-day events that usually get about 100, 125 people are going to have to go virtual this year as well. So we're hoping for 1 year, we can get a contract that will cover all of our events. So therefore it would be more cost effective
Gotcha.
and much more personable than just doing a Zoom.
And how much did you say the Intrado was going to cost? 100 and what?
Probably close to 150 for a year.
For the year. Okay. Okay.
But we're still talking with them and trying to figure it out. Now, there's another one out of France, and I cannot remember the name, but I'll get it to you, that we wanted to talk to, but they're fully booked for the year and won't take any new customers. So that's one of the issues right now, is that a lot of these companies have gotten so busy, they can't keep up. And I think that was really more the issue with VFairs, is that they were overwhelmed with the amount of business they suddenly had, and they were out of Pakistan, and so they didn't have enough people, enough coders, enough support, really.
Got it. Okay. Wow. So let's shift. I'm sitting here getting all excited about all these questions. Let's shift gears a little bit to the sponsors. So you said that you convinced some of your sponsors to stay with you. I forgot you kept half of the sponsors. So kind of looking at this, it maybe seems to me that like the sponsors that didn't stay with you maybe regretted it, because you had such an amazing, outcropping. So a few questions, and you can address them however you want. The sponsors that stayed with you, have you figured out any way to do anything special for them to reward them for their loyalty? And the sponsors that said that they'll push their money to the next thing around, are you going to change how the sponsorship, how the expo works? What are your thoughts on that as far as how it worked this year and what you're looking to move forward with?
Yeah, so this was our Procurement Technology Summit. So this was focused purely on procurement technology. Our fall summit is our Global Executive Summit. So we'll have different sponsors that will participate.
Okay.
So in the spring, it was strictly technology, with the exception of Grubhub, who wanted to participate.
Mm-hmm.
And that was their first virtual event, and they loved it. And now we've partnered with them on our 1 days to send out meal cards, so for the lunchtime keynote and things like that. The fall summit will be more diverse providers as well. And as far as rewarding them, getting that mailing list of 1,151 people, they felt that was their reward. And we've had to give, in addition, where you might have spent, $20,000 or $30,000 on a booth. Of course, we reduced the prices dramatically because we were going online and we didn't have to physically provide a booth. But they were given a lot of opportunity, because we ended up spending about $4,000 in mailing costs to ship out all the boxes. They appreciated that dramatically. That was really, they were really excited about having their stuff still out with everybody.
Sure.
And we did more social media and Google ads than we've ever done in our life. Between Twitter and LinkedIn, we were posting videos almost probably twice a week, new videos about the summit coming up.
Really?
We also had all of the technology providers were given a chance to have an intro done by Jason Bush, who in our industry is the industry analyst expert around technology from Spend Matters. Mm-hmm. That was a value that they're just replaying it again and again and again, because he had things to talk about their platforms and why they were so robust. So they really got a lot out of it by partnering with Spend Matters on this. The technology providers were very, very thrilled.
Great. So with the list, okay, so you said, did you give, what did the vendors get, an email list, a mailing list? Tell me what
they got the name, the title, the name of the company, and the email of every registrant.
And so you had originally committed 500, and they ended up getting over double what you committed.
Mhm.
Now, did you or are you going to make that list available to others that didn't participate?
Nope.
Perfect. Okay, now I get it. Okay, so it's like, hey, you didn't show up, tough luck. Okay,
You push your money, you don't get it.
got it. Okay, well, that's a hell of a reward right there.
Yeah.
And and let's get back into this kit that you mailed, the swag kit, and you said you sent it out to the first 300. Um, okay, how did you come up with the idea to mail it? Because so many people are afraid to spend a quarter on a stamp, or a dollar or half a dollar on a stamp. So what was the logic in deciding to do that? And then, um, what did you reach out to more people to get more swag? And let's talk about this jungle kit, or whatever
Mhm.
you
Big venture.
and the old fashioned that you put in it. Were you allowed to send liquor in the box also, like the little from the airplanes?
No, so it wasn't, the liquor wasn't included, but it included the drink kit.
Oh,
So it included the bitters, the sugar cubes, the stirs, the napkins, everything like that. And all you had to do is provide your own bourbon.
bourbon and ice. Okay,
Yeah,
okay. So
yeah.
let's talk about that kit a little bit more. You know, what made you decide to go to the expense to do it, and and how receptive were the people, as far as your suppliers, your vendors, and what was the general feeling from the attendees that received that kit?
They loved it because it brought that personal, so at our summits, we have pashminas out on racks because hotels tend to get cold. So people can wrap themselves and they're all logoed. We don't give them away per se, but normally we have them there. We have reading glasses. We have everything you need. We have over 100 sets of reading glasses. No reason to go back to your room. Stay where
Wow.
all the magic is happening. So we have everything from, Tide pens to phone chargers to iPad chargers, every kind of plug known to man. So we try and create the world that you want to stay right with us the entire time. No reason to go back to your room ever. And so what we wanted to do is to send all that out to make them feel, because these are all the things they would have received: a water bottle at check-in because we want to be sustainable. The overnight sleep kit would have been a room drop that would have gone to their rooms. The trail mix, every Wednesday we do a trail mix bar. So we put together the trail mix sponsor, and we put together bags of trail mix and put their label on all the trail mix. The coffee, the breakfast sponsor was SAP. So we had the SAP coffee cups with the wrapper that had SAP on it. And we bought $5 Starbucks cards to go inside every coffee cup. So we just wanted to be as creative as possible so people would get that feel, that warm and fuzzy feel that they normally would get. We also knew it would drive registration early because it was the first 300. And the drink kits, were $14 or $15 a piece, but we wanted, we always celebrate. We have a closing celebration. So we bought those and spent money on those. The pashminas we gave away, normally we wouldn't give them away, but we figured why not? It's a great touch. And if people wear them out in public, it's better for our brand recognition anyways. So we just decided to invest. I really feel you need to spend money to make money. And I didn't want to take a chance on this failing because we were the first of our industry to go virtual and none of our competition had done so. And one thing that SIG has always done is set the bar really, really high for other organizations. And everyone who attends other sourcing and procurement events always says that nobody can compete. So I had to do this, with as many touch points as we could humanly possibly do. So
Sure.
It was a no-brainer.
Well, thinking about this, something that I hear so frequently, and from either trade associations or professional societies putting their meetings together, we're a nonprofit. We don't have any money. We have to be careful. We can't spend. And you used the word invest, which is a wonderful word. And for some reason, you seem to get it that, you know, if you invest in your members, you invest in your attendees, it pays off. Why is your organization different? Why do you look at it differently as far as really understanding the concept of investing versus, you know, how did that come about? Why are you that way? I mean, so many people aren't.
Because I'm always driven to be successful. So I'm driven to set the bar. You know, whether in my consulting days, I was the same way. I invested in my clients, and, you know, and I just think that personal touch, people get excited when you're excited. And our industry, especially with COVID, you know, everybody suddenly knew the word supply chain. And we were the essential workers for most companies, are the sourcing professionals. And we're the ones that had disruption. And if anything, you know, they need us more now than they've ever needed us before. And I also wanted to make sure that, you know, one of our ongoing revenue sources is SIG University, where we do certifications. And so the more exposure I can get for SIG University is more non-membership revenue that I can drive for the organization. And that's, I'm passionate about education. I'm passionate that you need to constantly be upskilling your staff. And for us to be seen as strategic, it's necessary in our industry to be educated. And, you know, our industry is so impacted by like the butterfly effect. You know, a tsunami halfway around the world can impact a supply chain here. You know, geopolitical unrest can affect an outsourcing relationship you have in a certain country. So we are so interconnected on a global basis. And then to have a global pandemic at the same time suddenly put all of our supply chains at risk. Mm-hmm. So it's just really, really important for us to bring people together. And we brought in cybersecurity expert from CrowdStrike, the CEO of CrowdStrike, to talk about cybersecurity, because suddenly we had people working remotely from home, mm-hmm. and, you know, with hundreds of millions of dollars in contracts going through their systems and the amount of exposure that it created, the need to pivot and find new suppliers quickly without having a chance to go through, you know, 1,000-point cybersecurity check on them. So we tried to bring as much COVID-related, pandemic-related content on how to work in this environment, how to secure your supply chain. So the timing was good in that regard.
Wow. So no, it's very amazing. This is a side note, and your SIG University, what is the certification, and what do they have to do to get it?
So it's completely online certification, and so we have 4 programs you can be certified in as of now, and we're constantly adding. So we have Certified Sourcing Professional, which is a 13-week online certification. And that goes through the hard skills that you may or may not have learned in college or have forgotten, then the sourcing skills and how to do strategic sourcing correctly, and then all the soft skills you need to be in sourcing today. So you've got to have change management, you need to be able to lead cross-functional teams, you need to be able to sell your ideas up and down and across the organization. So that was the first program we created. Then we have certified some third-party risk managers, and because everything we do has a third-party risk aspect to it. And a lot of our members are financial institutions or heavily regulated pharmaceuticals. You have to make sure that you understand who your third parties are, your fourth parties, your fifth parties, and how to manage that risk. So that's a newer certification. And then we have governance. So once you're in a contract, how do you govern? So certified supplier management professional. And then this past year, we added certified intelligent automation. So that goes through and looks at all your processes, what can be automated, which is extremely important right now as well, to adopt more automation and get rid of the dumb work that you have to do. So we added that one. And so we just keep adding as there is a need in our industry, we add additional certifications. Got it.
So let me ask you, what would you say to a chief staff executive or any association executive that might be, or society that might be watching this, that's looking at taking their meeting virtual, trying to make it happen? As you know, right now, while we're recording this, is 1 million people are trying to make their meetings. You know, what are the couple important do's? What are the couple important don'ts? And what would be your your advice for those people?
I think the most important thing is not to think of it as a series of webinars. You know, the last thing someone's going to do is show up for 4 hours of talking heads. And if you don't have it interactive, if you don't have the cameras on, people will not stay engaged. And so we never used the word webinar. We insisted that people had to be on camera when they were presenting. We insisted they had to take live Q&A. And so people then were invested in participating because it was human to human contact. And that's the piece that, you know, so many of us are missing, is that face-to-face contact. So the more we could do it through our platform, the better. Other people have done it as a series of webinars. Well, I can watch a webinar anytime, but I don't have to engage and I don't have to watch it all the way through. So we did record everything. So if you didn't, so you had 4 competing breakouts, you could only go to 1 at a time, but you could watch the other ones on demand immediately after and still feel like you were part of it. I think having the platform, you know, with the avatars and the people walking and zooming in was a fun way to do it. You know, it's just, you've got to replicate the face-to-face in as many human touch points as you can possibly do. And that was, and we had so many people say, we so miss not being able to go to the summit, but it felt like we were there. And you know, my entire role was to get people excited and ramped up for it. And, you know, and so I had 3 fireside chats that I was able to do, and people loved the content. They loved the conversations. They felt like they were eavesdropping, which is the way I love to do a fireside chat, is that you're just listening in on someone else's conversation. So it was just very engaging with everything we did.
Tell me more about the fireside chats. How, where, what, did you do that at the event or prior?
We did it virtually, obviously, because of the shelter in place. And so we would have the camera pretty much like we have it right now and ask the questions, but we made sure that, you know, we had a consistent background, you know, so all of my executives had green screens, you know, for all their intros and facilitating the sessions. We did live introductions of every speaker. But the fireside chats, we had topics, and I talked to some CEOs of some major organizations, and we talked about their response to COVID and what they were doing and how their world has changed and what their expectations are. And we just had a great conversation, and then live Q&A, and people loved the chance to talk to these folks and ask questions.
Got it. Any other cautions on, you know, what could go to crap if they're not careful?
Internet speed, absolutely #1. So we did put together a video on how to present. So things, you know, because everybody was sheltering in place during our event, you know, you have kids at home, they're on gaming systems, you've got multiple people on Wi-Fi. So that was really critical, is that we tested everyone's Wi-Fi connection at the beginning of every single event and made sure that they knew to tell their kids to not be, gaming was really the big one that takes a lot of bandwidth, but then just turn off every other device you possibly can have turned off. That is huge. And had we had a power outage or something like that, we had a backup for every person, not the presenters, but our team. We had every room had 2 people logged in, ready to go. And we did have 1 computer crash, but nobody was aware of it. I literally ran into my recording room with less than 5 seconds before one of my fireside chats because my internet went down. And I got it back up and I jumped in the chair and I was probably, you know, out of breath. But we made sure that if mine didn't come back up, I had somebody else ready to step in and take over.
Did you guys have Wi-Fi, I'm sorry, mobile hotspots connected to a second computer for anybody to be ready in case that went down?
We had that going, and everybody had a mobile device as a secondary backup. It's not strong enough to keep the cameras on and the voice at the same time. So, but we did, you know, so we did test that. But we had, you know, on the surface, we always use the analogy of a duck. You know, we skim across the water and we act like everything's great. And underneath, we are paddling like crazy. And that was how the whole week was. It was a high energy, you know, you were exhausted every single day. And we only had 4.5 hours of content every day. And you were exhausted at the end of it.
4.5, okay. I'm just making a note here.
Yeah.
As you're talking, I'm making notes. Okay, no, that's amazing. Hey, Don, this was amazing. I mean, you shared so much information. I really appreciate the fact that you're willing to come on here and share what your experience, because you were kind of one of the early pioneers in making this, and I realize that there's a ton of people that are following in your footsteps and are going to have to do some of these things, and hopefully some of these people can learn from your experience. And if anybody has any questions, would you be opposed to a quick email?
I'd love to help other people out with this.
Yeah.
And we've been reached out, dozens of people have reached out to us post-event and said, can you help us?
And tell us your email.
dtiura@sig.org.
Very good. Thank you. Well, hey, again, I want to thank you so much. This was an absolutely amazing session. And, I appreciate it, and a ton of other people will too.
Well, I appreciate you doing the weekly calls with all the executives. That has been fantastic to add to my calendar.
Well, we're not supposed to tell people about those. No, that's okay. As a matter of fact, I got a text yesterday from a very good friend that works for one of the people on our chief staff executive calls, and he goes, "Why can't I get into it?" I said, "Sorry, man, you're not a chief staff executive. That's the way it goes."
Yeah.
So, yeah, very good. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Ed. Thanks for your time.